Monica Bell was a respected judge in her city. She had worked very hard to reach her position. Every day she made important decisions in the courtroom. She helped people get justice. But Monica was tired. Her job was stressful, and she wanted a break from the busy life. One weekend, she decided to visit her cousin who lived in a neighborhood she did not usually go to. This neighborhood was known to be rough, and many people had problems with the police there. But Monica just wanted to spend some quiet time with her family. On that day, Monica did not wear her usual formal clothes or makeup. She wanted to be simple and unnoticed. She put on a plain sweater and jeans and covered her hair with a dark scarf. She wanted to stay low and not be recognized as a judge. She told herself she was just another woman visiting her cousin. Nothing more. It was late in the afternoon when she left her cousin's house to go to a nearby store. The streets were quiet, but she felt safe because she had grown up in that city and knew the area well. As Monica walked, she noticed a group of police officers patrolling the street. They looked serious and were watching the people closely. Monica tried to ignore them and kept walking. Suddenly, two officers stepped in front of her and stopped her. One of them said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" Monica was surprised, but remained calm. She smiled politely and said, "I'm just going to the store. I'm visiting my cousin nearby." The officers looked at her suspiciously. One of them asked her to show her ID. Monica reached into her pocket, but she realized she had left her wallet at her cousin's house. She told them this honestly. The officers did not believe her. They said, "You don't look like you belong here. We got a call about a suspicious woman wearing a headscarf. You match the description." Monica tried to explain who she was. She said, "I am Judge Monica Bell. You can check. I am just visiting my cousin. I haven't done anything wrong." But the officers did not listen. One of them, Officer Greg Miller, was rude and angry. He said, "We will see about that. You're coming with us." Monica's heart sank. She felt scared but also angry. She knew she was being treated unfairly. She tried to stay calm and cooperative. The officers handcuffed her roughly and took her to the police car. Monica looked around, hoping someone would help her, but no one came. The officers did not explain why they were arresting her. Monica felt like she was in a nightmare. At the police station, things got worse. The officers put her in a small room and asked her again who she was. Monica repeated her name and her job as a judge. She asked if she could call her lawyer or family. But Officer Miller ignored her requests. He was angry and said, "You think you're better than us just because you're a judge? Here, everyone is equal." Then something terrible happened. Officer Miller said they needed to search her hair. Monica was confused and scared. She said, "Why? There is nothing in my hair. Please don't do this." But the officer was not listening. He pulled off her headscarf roughly. Monica felt cold air on her scalp, and her heart beat faster. "Officer," Miller said, "we think you are hiding something under that scarf. Maybe drugs or a weapon." Monica was shocked. She said, "I am a judge. Why would I hide something?" But the officer laughed and said, "We don't care who you are. You will do what we say." Without warning, Officer Miller took out a razor. Monica tried to stop him, but he forced her to sit down. Slowly, he started shaving her head. The cold razor moved over her skin, and Monica felt humiliated. Tears came to her eyes, but she did not cry out. She was too shocked and hurt. Other officers watched quietly. Some looked uncomfortable, but no one stopped Miller. Monica sat there, helpless, as her hair fell on the floor. She had always loved her hair. It was a part of her identity, her pride. Now it was being taken away in a cruel and disrespectful way. After shaving her head, Officer Miller put the scarf back on her head, but it was loose and could not cover her bald scalp completely. Monica felt cold and exposed. She was left in the holding cell alone, shaking and thinking about what had happened. She wondered how things had gone so wrong. How could people treat her like this? How could the police do something so cruel to a black woman, especially one who was a judge? In the cell, Monica remembered all the times she had worked to protect people's rights. She had fought hard against injustice in the courtroom. But now, she was the one suffering from injustice. She felt a deep sadness, but also a quiet strength, growing inside her. She knew she had to stay strong. This was not the end of her story. While sitting there, Monica thought about her family, her career, and the many people who trusted her. She decided that she would not let this incident break her spirit. She would use her voice and position to fight against such cruelty. She promised herself that she would make sure no one else would have to face what she was facing. Outside the station, some people had already started to notice what was happening. A few community members saw her being taken in and whispered among themselves. The news had not yet spread, but rumors would soon begin. Monica's friends and family were worried and started calling the station to find out what had happened to her. As the evening turned into night, Monica's mind raced. She thought about the mistakes the officers had made. They had judged her by her appearance, by her skin color and her scarf, not by who she truly was. They had ignored her words and identity. It was a painful reminder of the racial bias that many people faced every day. Monica's experience was not unique. Many black women had been stopped, searched, and mistreated by police officers who assumed they were criminals. But Monica was different. She had a platform and power to bring change. She was determined to tell her story and demand justice. The night passed slowly. Monica stayed quiet, waiting for someone to recognize her and help. She hoped that her identity as a judge would soon be confirmed and that she would be released. But deep down, she knew the road ahead would be difficult. Finally, after hours of waiting, a senior officer arrived at the station. He looked at Monica carefully and said, "We have been informed about your identity. You will be released immediately." Monica nodded silently. She was tired and worn out, but relieved. Before leaving the station, Monica looked at the officers, who had treated her badly. She did not say anything. She knew words would not be enough. She wanted justice and change, not just an apology. As she walked out of the station with her shaved head uncovered, Monica felt the eyes of many on her. Some looked shocked, some ashamed. But Monica held her head high. She was not a victim. She was a judge who had faced injustice and was ready to fight back. Her story was just beginning. After Monica was taken to the police station, the atmosphere changed completely. The place was cold and unwelcoming. The walls were gray, and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. It was not a place anyone wanted to stay for long. Monica sat quietly on a metal bench in a small room, her hands still cuffed. She tried to calm her mind, but her heart was racing. She had never imagined that something like this could happen to her. Someone respected. Someone who fought for justice every day. Officer Greg Miller was the one in charge. He had a rough face with tired eyes, but something hard and angry inside them. He did not like Monica's calmness. It made him uncomfortable. He was used to people being scared or angry when arrested. But Monica looked almost like she was above it all, like a queen who did not belong in this place. That made him angry. Miller started asking questions again, but this time his voice was harsher. "What's your real name? Why were you really walking around here? Who are you working for?" Monica answered politely, "I am Judge Monica Bell. I was visiting my cousin. There is nothing illegal about that." The officer did not listen. He had already made up his mind. He muttered under his breath, "Judges or not, you all look the same to me." That was a painful sentence for Monica. She knew it was not just about her. It was about how many black women and men were treated every day. They were seen as suspects first, humans second. Officer Miller stood up and walked around the room. Then he said something that shocked Monica. He said, "We need to search your hair." Monica blinked. She did not understand why this was necessary. "My hair? Why? I have done nothing wrong," she said calmly. But Miller was not listening. He said, "We have rules. For safety and sanitation, we have to make sure you're not hiding anything dangerous. Sometimes people hide drugs, weapons, or other things in their hair. You have to cooperate." Monica felt her stomach tighten. She said, "I am a judge. I swear on my honor, there is nothing in my hair or on my person." She hoped that this would make him think twice. But Miller just shrugged. Suddenly he grabbed her headscarf roughly and pulled it off. Monica gasped. The cool air hit her scalp. She tried to hold onto the scarf, but the officer was stronger. The scarf fell to the floor, revealing her dark, curly hair. Monica felt vulnerable, exposed. She did not know what would come next, but she was scared. Miller looked at her hair suspiciously, running his fingers through it. Then he pulled out a small razor from his pocket. Monica's eyes widened. "No, please don't do this," she begged, but the officer ignored her. "We have to be sure. You're going to sit still." He pushed her down on a chair. Monica tried to stand up, but two other officers held her arms tightly. She struggled, but they were too strong. Slowly, Miller started shaving her hair. The razor moved across her scalp, cutting through the curls and waves that she had cared for all her life. The sound was sharp and harsh, like a blade against skin. Monica closed her eyes, feeling the cold sting. Tears formed, but she did not cry out. She felt humiliated and powerless. Other officers watched in silence. Some shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. The room felt heavy, filled with anger and fear. Monica sat there, her head slowly becoming bare. Her hair fell to the floor in clumps. She remembered all the times she had styled it, the hours she spent taking care of it. It was more than hair. It was her identity, her pride, her culture. When the shaving was finished, Monica's scalp was red and sore. She tried to cover it with her hands, but it was no use. The officers forced the headscarf back onto her head, but it was loose and did not cover the bald patches. She felt cold and exposed. The officers took Monica back to the holding cell. It was small and dirty, with a narrow bench and a small window. Monica sat down, her head lowered. She felt the sting of tears but held them back. She was angry and hurt, but she also felt something stronger: determination. She thought about the injustice of what had happened. Why was she treated like a criminal when she was a judge? Why did the officers not believe her words? Why did they not care about her dignity? These questions ran through her mind. Monica remembered stories she had heard from other black women and men, stories of being stopped by police for no reason, of being searched and humiliated. Now she was living one of those stories herself. But she also knew that she had the power to make things change. While she sat alone, she heard noises outside the cell. The voices of officers talking, the clinking of keys, the footsteps of people passing by. She wondered if anyone outside the station knew what had happened to her. Would her family be worried? Would her friends come to help? At one point, an officer brought her some water and food. Monica thanked him quietly. She noticed that this officer looked sorry for what was happening, but he said nothing. Monica understood that many officers were trapped in a system that allowed such behavior. Hours passed slowly. Monica stayed quiet, thinking about her next steps. She knew she had to be patient. The truth would come out, and justice would be served. She was not just fighting for herself, but for all the people who had been treated unfairly. Eventually, a senior officer entered the room. He looked serious and held some papers in his hand. Monica's heart beat faster. He said, "Judge Bell, we have verified your identity. You will be released shortly." Monica nodded, relief washing over her. But she did not smile. She knew that being released was only the beginning of a bigger fight. Before leaving, Monica looked at Officer Miller and the other officers who had mistreated her. She wanted them to know that she would not forget this. She would hold them accountable. As Monica walked out of the station, her head uncovered and bald, she felt the eyes of many on her. Some looked shocked, some embarrassed, but Monica held her head high. She was still the same strong woman who had been before, only now she had faced the worst and survived. Outside, reporters had gathered. Cameras flashed as Monica walked by. She did not speak to the media, but her silence spoke louder than words. She was a symbol of strength, dignity, and the fight against injustice. Her story quickly spread through the city and beyond. People were shocked and angry. Protests began. In the neighborhood where she had been stopped, many demanded changes in police behavior and more respect for Black lives. Monica's experience opened the eyes of many people who had never thought about the deep problems in the police force. They saw how even a judge could be humiliated and treated unfairly because of her race and appearance. Monica knew she had to use her voice. She prepared to speak out, to demand reforms and better training for police officers. She wanted to make sure no one else would suffer as she had. In the following days, Monica met with lawyers and activists. She shared her story and listened to others who had faced similar injustices. Together, they planned ways to bring change to the community and the police department. Despite the pain of the experience, Monica felt hopeful. She believed that with courage and determination, things could improve. Her shaved head became a symbol, not of shame, but of resilience and the fight for justice. Monica decided to continue her work as a judge with even more passion. She would use her position to protect the rights of people who were often ignored or mistreated. Her story reminded everyone that justice must be fair and that every person deserves respect, no matter their race or background. This painful moment in Monica's life became the start of a new journey, one filled with courage, change, and hope for a better future. The next morning at the police station, there was a tense atmosphere that no one expected. Monica Bell, still shaken but composed, had spent a difficult night reflecting on what had happened. The humiliation of having her head forcibly shaved was fresh in her mind, but she also knew this moment held the power to change many things. Yet, the officers involved had no idea what was about to unfold. Early that morning, word reached the police chief's office that a mistake had been made. The senior officials were stunned. How could they have arrested and humiliated a respected judge, someone who was supposed to be above suspicion? The news came from the city's Department of Justice, which had been tipped off about a case involving Judge Monica Bell. They immediately demanded her release. Officer Greg Miller and his partner, the two men who had detained Monica the night before, began to realize the seriousness of their error. The initial confidence they had shown was replaced by nervousness and dread. Miller avoided eye contact, trying to appear busy, but the tension in the precinct was thick. Officers whispered, in corners, trying to make sense of what had happened. Monica was still in the holding cell when the chief came to speak with her. He offered a formal apology and promised to investigate the incident fully. Monica listened calmly. She had no anger for the chief, but she made it clear that this was a grave violation of her rights and dignity. The chief nodded but said he could not undo what had already happened. When Monica finally left the station, her bald head uncovered, she stepped out into the sunlight with a quiet but powerful grace. The world looked at her differently now. The shaved head was no longer a sign of humiliation. It was a symbol of the injustice she had endured. Many onlookers stared, whispering among themselves. Some were sympathetic, others were shocked. Monica felt their eyes but kept her gaze steady. Later that day, Monica had to appear in court. Ironically, the case she was scheduled to hear involved police misconduct, the very issue she had become a victim of. The courtroom was filled with lawyers, defendants, journalists, and ordinary people who had come to watch the trial. As she walked into the courtroom, heads turned. Some gasped softly, Others exchanged surprised glances. Her bald head, uncovered, was striking and unexpected. Monica's presence commanded attention without a word. The officers who had detained her the previous night were also in the building. They were there on unrelated business, but when one of them looked up and saw Monica sitting calmly on the bench, he froze. His face went pale. He did not expect to see the judge in that condition, much less presiding over a case. The atmosphere in the courtroom was tense. Monica did not mention her ordeal during the session, but everyone knew about it. The story had spread rapidly through the city, fueled by social media and news outlets. The public was watching closely, waiting to see how the system would respond to this clear example of police abuse. As the trial proceeded, Monica's calm, fair, and firm demeanor impressed everyone. She listened carefully to both sides, asked thoughtful questions, and reminded the courtroom of the importance of justice and fairness. Her shaved head did not diminish her authority. It strengthened it. It was as if her appearance reflected the reality of the struggle for justice in her community. After the session, several lawyers and activists approached Monica. They expressed their support and admiration. Many had heard her story and were inspired by her courage. Some spoke of the need to address systemic racism in the police force, calling for policy changes and better training. Monica nodded, knowing she was not alone in this fight. Meanwhile, the officers involved faced increasing scrutiny. Internal Affairs opened an investigation into their actions. The community demanded accountability. The police department's leadership found themselves under pressure to explain how such a mistake could occur. Miller and his partner were called in for interviews, but their answers were weak and defensive. One officer, who had witnessed the incident but said nothing, came forward as a whistleblower. He described how Miller had acted with hostility and how other officers had ignored the abuse. This testimony further damaged Miller's reputation and strengthened the case against him. Monica's story became a symbol of the wider problem of racial profiling and police misconduct. She spoke openly about the incident in interviews and community meetings. She emphasized the need for empathy, respect, and change in the way law enforcement interacts with minority communities. Her courage inspired protests and calls for reform. People gathered in the streets, holding signs and chanting for justice. The media covered these events extensively, putting pressure on city officials to act. Monica herself joined some peaceful demonstrations, standing with the people she served. At the same time, Monica continued her work as a judge. She used her position to advocate for fairness in the justice system. She worked with local leaders to develop programs aimed at reducing bias and improving community relations with the police. Over the weeks, the incident sparked important conversations across the city. Police officers received additional training on cultural sensitivity and proper procedures. New policies were introduced to prevent humiliating searches without clear cause. Community oversight boards were strengthened to monitor police behavior. Miller faced disciplinary action. His career was in jeopardy, and he struggled to defend his actions. Many colleagues distanced themselves from him, recognizing that his behavior was unacceptable. Monica's personal life was affected as well. She received support from family, friends, and colleagues, but also faced backlash from some who disagreed with her stance. Despite this, she remained steadfast, committed to using her experience to help others. The incident did not break Monica. It made her stronger. Her shaved head became a powerful symbol of resilience and justice. It reminded everyone that even in the face of cruelty and prejudice, dignity could be maintained. Her story was told and retold, inspiring people to speak out against injustice and demand change. Monica Bell became more than a judge. She became a leader, a voice for those who had been silenced. In the end, the painful experience that started with a wrongful arrest and forced shaving turned into a catalyst for hope. It opened doors for dialogue, reform, and healing. Monica continued to fight for a world where no one would be judged by their appearance or color, but by their character and actions. Her journey showed that true justice requires courage, compassion, and the willingness to stand up against wrong no matter the cost. After the incident at the police station and the subsequent public outcry, Monica Bell's life changed in ways she had never expected. The experience of having her head forcibly shaved, being humiliated and wrongfully arrested, became more than just a personal ordeal. It turned into a powerful movement that touched the lives of many people. But the road ahead was not easy. Monica had to face new challenges, not only outside but within herself as well. In the days following the incident, Monica found herself waking up each morning with a mixture of emotions. Some days, she felt strong and ready to fight, fueled by the support of her community and the desire for justice. Other days, she felt the weight of pain and exhaustion settling deeply inside her. She often looked in the mirror, her bald head shining under the light, reminding her of the harsh treatment she had suffered. But instead of feeling defeated, she began to see her shaved head as a symbol of survival and resilience. Friends, family, and colleagues reached out to her with messages of encouragement. Her phone buzzed with calls and texts from people who wanted to check on her, offer help, or just listen. Monica appreciated the kindness, but she also realized that many people were afraid of standing up, afraid of facing the same injustice themselves. She knew that the fight she was engaged in was bigger than her own story. It was about breaking down fear and building hope. Monica decided to use her experience to educate others. She began speaking at community centers, schools, and gatherings, where people shared their own stories of discrimination and police abuse. Monica's calm voice and honest words resonated deeply with her listeners. She spoke about the importance of dignity, respect, and equality, emphasizing that no one should be treated differently because of the color of their skin or the way they looked. One of the most powerful moments came during a community meeting, organized to discuss police reforms. Monica was invited as a guest speaker. The room was packed with concerned citizens, activists, local officials, and police officers. Some were skeptical, some angry, but most were eager to listen. Monica shared her story from beginning to end: the stop, the wrongful arrest, the forced shaving, and the public reaction. She did not shy away from the pain or the anger she felt, but she also talked about hope and the need for change. She called for better training for police officers, for stronger oversight to prevent abuse, and for community engagement that would build trust instead of fear. Her words stirred strong emotions. Some people cried, others nodded in agreement, and a few even stood to applaud. The police officers present listened quietly. Some looked uncomfortable, but Monica's tone was not accusatory. It was hopeful and firm. Over time, these meetings became regular events, creating a space for dialogue between the police and the community. Monica helped facilitate these talks, believing that honest communication was the key to healing and progress. At the same time, Monica continued her judicial work with renewed determination. She took on cases involving civil rights, police misconduct, and social justice. Her rulings became well known for their fairness and firmness. Many saw her as a beacon of hope in a system that often seemed unfair. Monica's shaved head, once a symbol of humiliation, became a mark of respect. People admired her courage and strength. Some women in the community even chose to shave their own heads in solidarity, a powerful statement of unity and resistance. Despite the growing support, Monica also faced challenges. The officers who had mistreated her remained defensive and tried to discredit her. Some media outlets tried to twist the story, suggesting she had exaggerated or that she had brought the incident on herself. Monica ignored the noise and focused on her mission. She also faced personal struggles. The emotional trauma of what had happened lingered. She sometimes had nightmares or moments of doubt, but she leaned on her close friends and family for support. They reminded her of her strength and the difference she was making. As the months passed, Monica's story inspired other cities to look at their own police practices. Activists across the country cited her case as a turning point in the fight against racial profiling and abuse of power. Monica was invited to speak at national conferences and forums. Her message was clear. Change was possible, but required courage, empathy, and action. She stressed the importance of listening to those who had been hurt and working together to build a more just society. Back in her hometown, the police department implemented several reforms. Officers received new training focused on cultural sensitivity and de-escalation. A community advisory board was established to oversee police conduct and provide feedback. Monica worked closely with these groups, offering her insights and experience. She believed that real change came from cooperation and understanding, not confrontation. Her experience also led to the creation of support networks for people who had been victims of police abuse. Monica helped organize counseling services, legal aid and advocacy groups to assist those who felt powerless. Throughout this journey, Monica's identity as a judge grew stronger. She was no longer just an enforcer of the law, but a symbol of justice itself. People looked to her for leadership, guidance, and hope. One evening after a long day of meetings and community work, Monica sat quietly at home, reflecting on how much had changed. She thought about the woman she was before the incident, and the woman she had become. The shaved head on her reflection was no longer a reminder of pain, but a crown of resilience. She understood that her journey was far from over. There would be more battles to fight, more injustices to expose, and more hearts to change. But she was ready. Monica smiled softly. The strength inside her was bigger than any challenge. Her story was a testament to the power of courage, hope, and the unyielding quest for justice. The months following the incident marked a new chapter in Monica Bell's life. What had started as a painful experience of humiliation and injustice had transformed into a powerful movement for change. Monica had become a symbol of courage, resilience, and hope for many. But even as she moved forward, the challenges she faced reminded her that the fight for justice was ongoing and never easy. One morning, Monica woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. She looked at her reflection in the mirror. The bald head, that had once been a mark of shame, was now a crown of strength. She knew that her story had already changed many lives, but she wanted to do more. She wanted to ensure that what happened to her would never happen again to anyone else. Monica's work began to extend beyond the courtroom and community meetings. She connected with lawmakers and city officials to push for new legislation aimed at preventing police misconduct and protecting the rights of citizens, especially minorities. She attended hearings where she shared her personal story and advocated for policies that would bring accountability and transparency to the police force. During one of these hearings, Monica faced tough questions from some skeptical politicians. They asked if the changes she proposed were realistic, if the police would cooperate, and how they could ensure these reforms would last. Monica responded calmly, explaining that the only way to build trust was through honesty, respect, and active listening. She reminded them that the law was meant to protect everyone equally, and it was time to live up to that promise. Her words resonated with many, and gradually, several important bills were introduced in the city council. These laws focused on banning humiliating searches without clear cause, improving police training on racial bias, creating independent oversight boards, and increasing community involvement in policing. As the legislative process moved forward, Monica also focused on healing the community. She helped organize workshops where police officers and community members could meet and talk openly. These meetings were not always easy. There were moments of anger, fear, and frustration on both sides. But Monica believed that these difficult conversations were necessary for real change. One memorable workshop involved police officers listening to stories from families who had lost loved ones due to police violence. The officers sat quietly, some with tears in their eyes, realizing the human cost of their actions. Monica saw this as a breakthrough, proof that empathy could bridge even the deepest divides. At the same time, Monica's personal life blossomed in unexpected ways. People admired her not only as a judge and activist, but also as a person who showed strength in vulnerability. She received letters and messages from young people who saw her as a role model. Many shared their own experiences with discrimination and thanked her for giving them hope. Monica started mentoring young women, especially those from minority communities. She encouraged them to pursue careers in law, social justice, and public service. She believed that the future belonged to those who dared to stand up and speak out. Despite the progress, Monica never forgot the night she was forced to shave her head. The memory was a reminder of how far society still had to go. Sometimes she wondered how different things might have been if that officer had treated her with respect from the beginning. But she also knew that dwelling on anger would not help. Instead, she used that memory as fuel to keep fighting. One day, Monica received an invitation to speak at a national conference on justice reform. The event brought together activists, lawyers, police officers, and government officials from across the country. Monica's story had become well known, and people wanted to hear her speak in person. When Monica took the stage, the room fell silent. Her presence was commanding but warm. She spoke honestly about her experience, the fear, the humiliation, and the resilience that followed. She emphasized the importance of unity and compassion in creating lasting change. Her speech was met with standing ovations and heartfelt applause. Many attendees approached her afterward, thanking her and sharing their own stories. Monica realized that her journey was part of a much bigger movement, a national call to end injustice and build a fairer society. Back home, Monica continued her judicial duties, community work, and advocacy. She remained grounded by the support of her family and friends, who reminded her of the importance of balance and self-care. She knew that fighting for justice required strength, but also rest and renewal. One evening, Monica reflected on the changes that had occurred since that fateful night. The police department had implemented new policies, community relations had improved, and awareness about racial profiling was higher than ever. Still, Monica understood that these changes were just the beginning. She dreamed of a future where no one would be judged by their skin color or appearance. A future where police officers and communities worked together as partners, built on mutual respect and trust. She believed that through continued effort and courage, that future was possible. Monica's journey also taught her about the power of forgiveness. Though she had every right to hold anger, she chose to forgive, not to excuse the wrongdoing but to free herself from the burden of hatred. This forgiveness gave her strength and clarity to keep moving forward. Her shaved head remained a symbol, not of pain, but of victory. It reminded her and others that even in the darkest moments, hope and courage could shine through. As Monica looked ahead, she felt ready for whatever challenges lay in wait. She was no longer just a judge. She was a leader, an advocate, and a beacon of change. Her story was proof that one person's courage could inspire a community, transform a system, and ignite a movement. And so, Monica Bell continued her work, not just for herself, but for every person who had ever been treated unfairly. Her journey showed the world that justice was worth fighting for, no matter the cost.